just realized that the high-pitched squeaking sound that we hear during this theme, right there, happens pretty much when the chandelier hits the apex of either of its swings. Also, what kind of creepy church has a beautiful woman with a scythe? I guess I can understand the angels. I mean, that makes sense, right? And the swords. The swords are representation of power. Also, where is this place? It's creepy looking. And I really like how they have the figure of the ghost in the T's. I think this is maybe inside the theater. I haven't been in there, though it does seem to be shaped wrong for the room. We'll find out. Let's continue where we left off. Despite my best efforts in keeping this morning's events from surfacing in my mind, it sticks. In a way, everything today simply feels like a reminder. Every conversation, regardless of how casual, every topic, no matter how mundane it seems. I blame the news entirely for this. Recent happenings brought quite a few interesting stories to everyone's attention. Mostly superstitious talk of death. What was the last plus we had? Oh, okay. We are maximized with Isabella, but I think that the person that we had done was Ashton. And when locals talk about death here, anyone can sure as hell count on someone bringing up that mansion Isabella sold not a few weeks ago. Weeks ago! Even my own students won't stop yapping about it. I think it's even worse than when it was put back up on the market. I mean, I guess if we go to from October 17th to that, weeks might be appropriate. Now, there are more stories. If this is the world reminding me of what matters simply because the atmosphere around this time of year calls for it, I'd rather take the latter. At least then I can be sure people will forget about it in favor of another set of holidays after. Nevertheless, this may be a painful thing to admit, but listening to them is a pleasant distraction while waiting for Ashton's call. I hope he didn't forget. The school day's about to end soon.
No, that's got nothing with what I heard.
You always hear stuff. And I'm not sure if half of them's even real.
No, really. Rowan knows about it. He used to be in the same class with them.
I can hear you from back here, you know.
Whatever, Rowan. Anyway, the story goes like this. There were 3 of them. They entered the mansion on a dare, and they were all never seen again. No one knows what happened to them. Up to this day. Scary shit, man.
Cock and bull story. Calling it now.
No, you don't get it. Why don't you ask Miss Gales then? Better yet, why don't you go inside the place? I'm betting my allowance you can't do it.
Their talk immediately halts when I look up, all of them pretending to be engrossed in their current activity. Still, a word to put a stopper to this nonsense is needed. Creativity and imagination fostered by these stories is one thing, but reckless ideas should be corrected before anything potentially tragic comes from it.
Back to your worksheets, everyone. And I don't want to hear any talk of dares or going inside that mansion. It's private property now. You'd all better stay away from it before...
At the noise, the whole lot of them goes silent. You can almost hear a pin drop. The look on their faces would have made for a funny picture, but that's irrelevant at the moment. If that's a student loitering around, someone's going to be in trouble.
I'll be back. If you're done, you can leave your worksheets on my desk. Keep the noise to a minimum while I'm gone, okay?
and I can sense their eyes on me as I walk out the door. A muted kind of anticipation. A bit unnerving, but it's far more agreeable than the feeling of being watched I've been enduring these past few days. Class is still in session for most of the rooms. In a few hours, once the final bell rings, however, this place will once again be filled with busy chatter and footfalls, an everyday cycle in itself. But for the moment I let the silence guide me, my ears focusing on whatever sounds there are, or will be, searching for that distinct clanging of metal. A good minute passes, and for the portion of it, only my steps echo through the halls. And another. I'm about to turn around. The sound of it halts my footsteps. It's a little muffled and infrequent, but it grows louder after each interval. With the hallway devoid of people, if I don't put a stop to it soon, it'll disturb the other classes still going on. Looking for it doesn't take long. All I do is follow the racket, and shortly I'm standing in front of a nondescript row of unoccupied lockers. And from inside one of them, sitting in the middle, comes the noise, annoyingly disruptive now that I'm facing it. Like someone's pounding on the metal door from the inside, hoping to get out. Leaning forward, I try and get a glimpse through the horizontal slats of whatever's causing it. But in this light, only darkness greets me, and another round of clanging. Louder than the previous one. More desperate. I've heard stories before, from other schools, from a few colleagues who've had to deal with it once or twice. Although personally I've never encountered one myself, I can only thank the heavens I haven't yet. But
If this is another kid, some other student stuffed in a locker.
with a huff, I straighten up and study it briefly with a frown. Without delay, I reach for its handle, and at once it stops. Immediately replaced by the muffled sound of a mobile phone ringing. I give the door a few raps before taking my attention away. A second. Another. When nothing or no one responds, I finally avert my eyes and pull out my mobile. Ashton's voice greets me from the other end of the line, oddly cheerful in light of this morning's matters. Or maybe just because I'm expecting some grave and serious news from him. Instead, I get this.
Hey, Becca.
Well, you sound happy.
I do? My voice still sounds the same to me.
There are only two things I know of that could be reason for that tone. Sweets, or he's gotten a good lead in his case. From the sound of it, I'm going to assume it's the former, since lately that's all that's running inside his head. If there's ever a third one, I've never heard of it. Can only be one of the...
Ignore that. How's Isabella?
Drove her home a few minutes ago. I think she's sleeping now. Sorry this took a while. Z-Man gave us the puppy eyes after we tried to leave. Had some food prepared for us, apparently. We didn't have the heart to say no.
That's all right. Is she okay now?
I'm not really sure. She didn't say anything to Zach, but she mentioned a plan to take a few days off from work. It was a passing comment before I left her, so I didn't get to ask.
Must be because of Rose's death.
Could be. It doesn't seem like it from Zach's story, though. He said she was shaking when she got there.
Shaking?
Word triggers a memory. From 3 days ago, on the way home from her little treat after she sold the mansion. I didn't think much of it at the time, but I won't lie. It scared me. The terrified look on her face, how she sounded when she suddenly screamed.
Becca? Still there?
Yeah, I just remembered something. Sorry, don't mind me.
Look, if you can talk to her, get the story out of her. That would be great. She wouldn't talk to Zach or me even when I tried. Maybe she'll speak up if it's you?
I'll give it a go, but I can't promise anything, okay? But thanks for letting me know about this. If you want, I can get you that ice cream thing you mentioned tonight. As thanks. Just as thanks for all the trouble I've caused today.
Believe me, I'd love to take you up on that offer, but I've got something on my schedule this evening. Maybe some other time? Thanks a lot, Becca.
There's a short pause after he cuts the call from his end, and once again I'm alone with my thoughts. But rather than answers, all I got from it are questions. More of them, one on top of the other, as if the world isn't planning on giving me a break anytime soon. But that's a problem I'll tackle later. Right now, I've got students who need to be taught follies of eavesdropping if the slightly open door and their smothered laughter from inside is an indication.
All right, enough eavesdropping. All of you, back to your seats.
Is that your boyfriend, Miss Gales?
None of your business.
He totally is. A quick scuffle follows that comment. If there's a retort prepared at the tip of my tongue, I drop every pretense of letting it loose on them. There's no use arguing with teenagers, boisterous as they all are. They're still my kids, though. Rough around the edges, maybe, but still my kids. Shaking my head, I head back to my classroom with a smile, but not before taking a look at the locker again. Hasn't made a sound since. Must be the wind, which is probably the stupidest thing I've seen Rebecca say. So without another look, I leave it alone. Right. All in all, the entire school day ends without a hitch. Could have gone better, mind you, but with exams getting near, getting out of work before the sun is set looks as if it's a far-off dream for now. At least until they're over, and then we have the holidays to look forward to. There really are times when you simply take what you can get for the time being.
Nothing wrong with that.
All I'm hoping for, this will continue until the whole day ends. There's still that promise I made to Ashton. Frankly, the idea alone doesn't sound good. If Isabella didn't talk to them, what makes them think she'll talk to me? It's not like there's a hierarchy, is there? Just because I can handle Isabella's childish tendencies doesn't mean I can do it all the time.
Really, those two give me too much credit.
Nevertheless, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. All because I'm also worried about it. And both Zachary and Ashton deem it important that somebody get the story out. Here's to hoping it's got nothing to do with that letter. Again. I understand if she feels a bit stressed lately, but keeping that story going on for more than a week is... it's bound to get tiring at one point. Seriously, I really don't want this to end in another argument. God willing, the cafe special will help me smooth things out. Wow. These sentences are terrible, and I'm trying to correct for them a little bit as I read, because that helps me with the cadence. But they're still terrible. After all, it's always been food with her. Or money. But mostly food. At this hour, the cafe is usually filled to the brim with people, and that's the reason Isabel and I rarely ever go here during the evenings. Simply too much of a hassle when we can prepare food ourselves in the comfort of our homes, and there really isn't much reason to eat out lately. But with life going on a busy streak, no time for long lines. Better spend that doing something productive. Yes?
Lucky there isn't one tonight.
Only a few people are idling around the counter. 4 of them, in fact. A woman in her 60s and a teenager busy with his phone. Both of them are just waiting to be served their orders. The other 2, a posh-looking man and a child, who I immediately recognize as Kylie, appear not to have yet picked anything they want. For some reason, my stare lingers at the guy. Though dressed relatively well and looks harmless, I haven't seen him around these parts before. Someone new in the neighborhood, perhaps? Even so, there's something familiar in him. It feels like I've seen him somewhere before. That also begs the question of why Kylie is with him. And why her head is larger than his. Of course, the girl easily takes a liking to anyone who buys her sweets, so it's a bit worrisome and unsurprising. That blonde bloke doesn't look particularly thrilled with the company, though. I tear my eyes away from them soon enough once the guy at the counter appears, ready to take my order. That, and I'd also hate to be accused of ogling strangers.
2, evening special, takeout.
He's already punching the order before I even finish. Saying my order out loud is really more for formality's sake, and made out of habit. He's known Isabel and I long enough that if we ever drop by here, he already knows it's always because I'm buying dinner for the 2 of us. I rarely visit here alone if I can help it, but Isabella can sometimes be a bad influence. He gives me a small smile before leaving to prepare my order while I fish for my wallet. When...
Look, you little ankle biter. If I buy you the biggest parfait they have, will you please behave? I would just like 10 minutes of peace and quiet.
You said you'll get me some bread pudding this time.
Yeah, well, darling, they said they ran out of it. Just pick another one so we can be on our way.
Their parfait doesn't look as cute as the one my mom bought me.
Parfait is just ice cream, sweetheart. It'll melt no matter how dainty it appears. In the end, it'll all look like an ugly puddle. Now come on, just pick one. It could even be the most expensive one on that list. I don't give a shit. I don't care. What I would give for someone to buy you off my hands right now.
What? My whole attention instantly snaps back to them and their conversation. Jumping to conclusions isn't something I'm particularly fond of, especially when all I have are baseless assumptions, but you really can't trust a stranger these days. No one around the cafe seems to notice his words either. Very suspicious words. Human trafficking words. Still, I don't move. Yet. But my hand has already shifted from my wallet to the book I'm carrying. A hard-bound textbook. It looks harmless, but if the situation calls for it, it might be a good deadly weapon. Might. I haven't gotten the chance to try it anywhere so far. Today could be the day.
But you promised.
Look, if you don't want a parfait, how about a Bonifay pie? I'm sure it'll taste just as good as any other bread pudding. I'll even buy you the entire tray. How does that sound?
That's not what you said before.
Well, sweetheart, adults change their minds sometimes.
You said if I come with you, you'll buy me a bread pudding, and I did, and now you won't keep your promise. I want to go home. I miss my mom.
No, darling, if I remember correctly, and I have a good memory, honey. What I said was, if you come quietly with me, I might buy you one. The quiet part didn't happen. Though now that I'm sober, I think this is a bad idea. And I should just ship you someplace else for that peace and quiet.
Wow, luring her away with sweets, shipping her places, selling her. He does sound like an awful person. Good thing we know he's an awful person. Oh, that's it. No hesitation. In a few paces, he's within my reach, and without warming, I'm slamming the flat area of the book against his skull.
Ow!
There's a cry of pain, followed by him instantly crouching down, hands nursing the sore spot. Almost comically, as if this were a different situation and the safety of a St. Goretti student isn't at stake. I'd probably feel sorry for him. I mean, has anyone seen how thick this book is?
Get behind me, Kylie!
Miss Pink!
It's amusing how fast her expression changes from the pouting one earlier to something of utter delight upon seeing me. But there's no time for pleasantries, not even quick ones, because soon the man straightens and I'm readying my favorite newfound weapon for another hit. Except this time he's ready, and before I can land one, his hand shoots up to catch my wrist in a firm hold. The look on his face.
Bloody hell, woman! What's your problem?
To say he's pissed would be a complete understatement. Had I been the weak-willed sort, I'd probably cower under his sharp gaze. That simply isn't how I roll. He thinks he can scare me and do as he pleases here just because I'm a woman, or whatever his reasons might be. He's got another thing coming for him. So instead, I return it to him with the same intensity, the same venom.
What's my problem? You're the one who has a problem here. Rotten bowbags like you don't deserve the freedom to run this town. What are you doing to this girl?
And why is that any of your business, pray tell?
Oh, it's my business if I make it to be. Now, release me or I'll call the police.
You think that scares me, Daisy?
I have a name, you sleazy douchebag.
Why does he call everybody after flowers?
Oh, I'm sure.
Plants. Mint is a plant too. His grip on my hand only tightens when I attempt to shake it off. His tone may be dripping with anger and sarcasm, but the gleam in his eyes says it all. He's getting a kick out of this. Riling people up, getting on their nerves, invading their personal space. He knows exactly what and which buttons to push. The nerve of this person. The nerve of this arsehole. He thinks I'm going to give in to his goading. Please, he may as well just kiss his sorry behind. In fact, why not do the most sensible thing right now? Teach him a tough lesson. Man, what do we think? I don't like Luke. So, part of me is kind of like, let's smash him in the head. Shout for help? Or hit him where it hurts.
Mister, you have until the count of 5 to let me go and step out of my personal space.
A fair warning. Fairer than any I can offer for people his kind, and I'm already being considerate. Oh yeah, that definitely pissed him off. Hell, this arsehole doesn't even deserve a warning. If he doesn't listen, well, he's as much responsible for what will happen next as any
Or else what?
sleazy douche.
Such vulgar words coming out of that pretty mouth. A gorgeous flower like you shouldn't even be.
Don't say I didn't warn you, Bowbag.
Love that intensity, Daisy. FYI, I like feisty in a woman. It gives them this certain charm. Why don't you?
Oh, that's why that's why it went up whenever we as Hana stood up to him.
5.
A second of silence. And then without any preamble, my leg moves in one fluid motion and delivers a swift, well-placed kick to his nether regions. Achievement unlocked, nuts and bolts. Needless to say, the effect is instantaneous. He yelps, abruptly drops his hold on me, and kneels over, howling from the pain. And I can see tears forming at the corner of his eyes, too. The mere sight of it prompts not an ounce of remorse from me. It would have been gentler if he wasn't such a dirty little prick with an ego too big for his head. Too bad. Whether this obliterates any chance of him ever procreating remains to be known, but a part of me is already praying he doesn't ever breed after this. There's no more need of him in this world.
You mad woman!
I warned you, you ass!
Why, this is harassment, I'm telling you! Harassment!
Then why don't you tell that to the police once they get here,
You despicable! Whatever you're assuming I am, I'll have you know it's all in your head. None of it's true. You best have that pretty brain of yours checked before that gets worse. What is wrong with you? Is this the face of someone who'd do anything suspicious?
Yes.
Oh? You don't think a stranger luring an innocent child with promises of sweets before whisking them away from their parents doesn't warrant any suspicion? You have a very funny definition of suspicious, asshole. Maybe you're the one who should have that head of yours checked.
The kid asked me to buy her sweets. You're the one who's suspicious here. I'll have you know, I have a wife!
That much, at least, appears to have a sliver of truth to it. He even makes a show of brandishing his left hand to my face with much flourish. Sure enough, the wedding ring is there, although all that's earned him is an unimpressed glare from me. Immediately, a small part of me starts to feel sorry for whatever poor woman married this sod. I don't understand why he has to bring her up, either, as if the mention of her alone will magically present a solution to his problem. She must truly be a remarkable woman if she can handle a dirtbag like him.
And even my wife of all people in this bloody city, has never, I'm telling you, accused me of such a scandalous thing! You crazy woman!
Married or not, you're still a sleaze. Honestly, I feel...
Miss Pink, why are you fighting with my teal?
Whatever words still left to be said there dies on my tongue. The same thing goes for the sleaze. Besides us stands Kylie, gawking at us with that same curious stare she often brings with her. I know that look all too well, a precocious child through and through. She doesn't say anything further, her gaze simply moves between us, eyeing us both carefully, clearly anticipating an answer. In my experience, when it gets like this with children her age, it's a sure sign they won't leave you until you've given them an answer that they're satisfied with. Lying won't do either. It's dissolved into a shouting match, for heaven's sake. Did she just say Tio? Something falls straight to the pit of my stomach at that, but my tone is gentle when I finally address her, void of any apprehension in what might be the first hints of embarrassment. I pointedly ignore the latter. Well, just the hunger speech.
Kylie, sweetie, do you know this oaf?
Yeah, he's Teal Luke.
Right at the moment, my brain stops. Every line of thought, every argument I have against the man beside me dissipates in a haze. Amidst all of it, one memory gets triggered a few days ago.
Tio? The one you mentioned before? The uncle? The guy Rowan wanted to impress? Or was that a dare? I'm sorry, I can't recall.
Wow.
Is it the one who promised he'll take Big Brother someplace cool?
Yeah, the one and the same. Don't you know who he is?
I sure as hell don't, darling. Because if I do, I wouldn't have let everything I'd said earlier come out of my mouth.
He's my T.O. Luke, gazillionaire extraordinaire, and no, the fairy godfather.
He's your godfather. That's...
Awful. Why should he be responsible for her soul if her parents die? Yikes.
That's nice.
The one and only. Did I get that right, T.O.?
More than right, sweetheart. I'm sure Miss Pink here understood everything you said quite perfectly.
Whatever it is that landed at the bottom of my stomach prior shot straight up to my face and stayed there. The heat from it slowly spreading to my cheeks, coloring my face in almost the same shade as my hair. If only the earth would swallow me whole, here and now. His eyes are on me and I can feel them jeering, mocking. I can't even bring myself to look at it. What's in there? Amusement? Doubt it. He's probably having the time of his life right now. But I know. I can hear the sneer in his tone alone when he talks. He's got that smug grin on him, which I may or may not want to punch off his face at the present, just for the hell of it. But damage control. I need to do some damage control before this whole thing goes south. Ugh. The smart thing to do is apologize to Luke. If I was a responsible teacher, I would apologize to the person that I assaulted. So even though he's a sleazebag, I'm gonna apologize to him. Oh crap. Though it pains me to apologize to a sleazebag like him, this is my mistake. With Kylie watching us close by, I don't want to set a bad example for her, do I? I'm surprised she grew up the child she is. If anything, I want to be the role model this man couldn't possibly become for her. Even if it means taking a few low blows to my ego and stroking his insufferable one. A deep gulp of air, a short moment to swallow my self-respect, and then I'm facing him. The words are out of my mouth in a single breath.
I'm really, really sorry, sir.
Achievement unlocked to the bigger person.
I had no idea.
His smirk is impossible to miss. He's not making an effort to hide it, and even the smile is so irritatingly present in his tone. I could slap it off and I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Now, it's an honest mistake, Daisy.
No, I really mean it. I actually thought you were... And then...
It's fine now. It probably happens quite a lot to a few people who look suspicious to you. Seems I'm one of them now. But don't lose sleep over it. Do be careful with that book, though. A little more and you would have dislodged my poor brain off my head.
I don't think brains are on heads.
What would I ever do if that happens?
Oh no! Did it leave a mark or anything? If you want, we can have it checked. I'll handle the expenses if there's a need for it.
Now, what kind of man would I be if I let an attractive woman such as yourself do that? Why don't we just look at it this way? My forgiveness is coming from the utter goodness of my heart.
I don't think so. So, full of himself. Exactly the kind of person I'd happily leave to die in a ditch somewhere. Let's remember that for the period of time where we'll probably leave him.
Of course, sir. Why didn't I think of it that way?
I like her hooded expression that she's got there. She's pleased.
I know, right? But even someone as capable as you is bound to have a few lapses. No harm done, Daisy. Let's move on from this.
Well, if you're going to put it like that, then I guess there's nothing left for us to talk about.
I figured as much.
Awkward. The whole exchange is nothing but an awkward display of fake pleasantries. One that brings much agony to the very pride of willingly held back a while ago. Might need a drink later so I can forget any of this has ever happened. Who would have thought the time would come when I'd meet someone tougher to handle than Isabella? Miracle of miracles, I swear. Though to my surprise, he offers me a hand shortly before they leave. For a shake, I realize, after a long moment of staring at it. I accept it, though half-heartedly. But all of the goodwill that small gesture represents melts into thin air when he winks at me. Winks! The gall of this man. However, there's no moment to ponder it. Seconds later, the guy at the counter waves me over and hands me a paper bag as soon as I've paid. He offers me another smile before I leave. Normally, I return it simply for the sake of returning it, or I don't at all, with the latter happening more commonly. For the time being, I do so freely. After that encounter and the scene we've caused, seeing a friendly gesture being extended to me, although from somebody I barely know on a personal level, feels like a reassurance, despite bearing no promise of better days. I'll take what little of it I can get as I step out into the night. A cloudless night sky greets me when I walk out of the cafe. Beyond the tall buildings, a blanket of stars spreads out before me. Isabella once told me that the best place to view it is someplace outside the city, away from the noise and the obtrusive lights. She'd seen it once in her mum's hometown, and another time in the university she used to attend. Then she asked if it was possible to try it out here sometime. I agreed with her at the time, if only because she appeared excited at the mere prospect of it. We made those little plans along with Zachary and Ashton. Though up till now, we never got around to it. Even so, I find myself enjoying this, despite being told it's only half the experience. Little things, you know? Stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone. For example, the very driver of the car fast approaching my direction. Luckily, he doesn't notice me, but the fleeting moment we pass each other by gives me a brief glance at the people he's with. Kylie sitting on the back seat with a serving of bread pudding in her hands. And beside him must be his wife. He takes a turn and disappears to the nearest corner. But throughout the night, that cursory glimpse of all things bothered me. It's left me wondering what kind of person his wife is. I thought they had a driver. I'm amazed that he's driving himself. Maybe he likes it. He was going on and on about a garage. More than that, it's a silent prayer to the universe. I hope I don't ever cross paths with that douche again. You know, you're almost guaranteed. After having such an eventful day, anyone would think nothing would surprise me anymore, but here I am, standing at the top of the stairwell, watching an odd scene unfold before me. Relief crosses my mind first, followed by confusion.
What is she doing there?
Although given what's happened this morning, the question feels a bit inappropriate to ask directly. What's important is Isabella's here. She's sitting cross-legged on the hallway just in front of her room with several papers and folders scattered about. Each of them seems as important as the next. More than once, upon giving the scene a quick scan, I spot Briar Realty's logo at the topmost area of the pages. Everything considered, it looks a mess made by a third grader working on crunch time. The landlady would give her a few things to say about this when she finds out. I have a few things to say about this myself, in fact. But something in the calm, focused manner she holds herself at present keeps me from disturbing her with that reminder. She's going through each paper with this intensity. Her brows are furrowed, lips in a tight line, hands moving in precise movements as she shifts through each sheet. When she finds something of note, she moves closer, nose almost touching whatever paper she's holding, and grabs her phone and calls someone.
Hello. Sorry to call you this late. There's something I just want to confirm, if that's okay. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Thanks anyway. Not that one either.
It's a cycle. She goes through call after call. Then the last one ends, and she shuffles through the pile again and dials another number. Does it work? I've never seen her this engrossed with her own work before. Otherwise, she would have noticed my presence the moment I reached down on the floor. After the 9th call, she still appears oblivious to it, as when I've arrived. That's a terrible sentence. After the 9th call, she's still oblivious that I'm there. When she lets out a loud sigh this time, I immediately take that as an opportunity to interrupt.
Isabella, you know the house rules here.
At once, her head jerks back and hits the concrete wall behind her with a thump. There's the Isabella I know. Glad it's still there. I allow her a moment to nurse it before speaking again.
Becca, you're late!
Yeah, I ran into a little trouble at the cafe. But I brought food for the two of us, if you haven't eaten anything yet.
As anticipated, she grins once I raise the bag of food I'm holding. This must not be the time that we've brought food and walk in and comfort her. This must be afterwards. Interestingly enough, if that's the case, this is actually after Isabella's story. We're finally moving beyond it a little bit. Which I guess we've done before, because I suspect that this is after the house, or before the housewarming party, otherwise we would have recognized. But it doesn't reach your eyes. There's nothing of the cheerful glint in it this time, just a hollow tone for the sake of being polite. Ashton's right. Something happened.
Yeah, maybe later. I've gotta finish this first. Just leave it here. I'll eat it once I'm done. Thanks, Becca.
You can't eat this here. You know how the landlady would react. Why are you even working outside? Your room's right there.
I know. Sorry. It just feels stuffy in my apartment right now. I'll go back inside once everything's been aired out. I promise.
That has never bothered you before.
Well, it bothers me now.
Oh, really? Just now? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah? Shouldn't you be happy? I mean, you've been complaining even if it's not your room. Now I know how you're feeling when it's messy, so I'm going to clean. Isn't that a good thing?
In spite of what's supposed to be good news, an exhale comes from me, drawn out and slow.
It's a good thing, Isabella. Believe me. But you're as bad as Zachary at lying. What's really going on?
She hastily averts her eyes, a surefire indicator that this is going to be one of those lengthy conversations that can possibly end with the other person angry. Again, it's one thing I'd like to avoid tonight, at all costs. So we're not going to hit her with a book. And we've made a promise to Ashton and Zachary. If she didn't talk to them, who else is she going to talk to? If she keeps all this to herself, who knows what might happen?
Isabella, you can tell me. I listened that one time, didn't I? Is it about your family?
A slight movement of her lips, although a frown is a reaction at least. I'm getting there.
Rose?
She merely shakes her head. Just a little more.
Come on, I know something happened. I don't know if it's because of Rose, but I know it's related to her somehow. You weren't here when I visited this morning, and both Zachary and Ashton are worried about you. If you don't want to tell them, you can tell me. Does it have something to do with work? Office?
If I didn't know her, I might have missed it. She shifts then, her fists clenching tight, and her teeth biting her lower lip, and there's fear. The look of terror in her is the last thing I expected to see out of everything. Her mouth trembles briefly before she opens it, and then she finally voices it. The words simply spill out of her mouth, one after another. All of it. True to what I've promised her, I listen. Because this is something she's been keeping to herself, even from the two most dependable people I know. The fact that she chooses to tell me speaks a lot to me.
Becca, she was there again. Last night? In the office? Boss passed me all of Rose's Lork load yesterday. For the Ermengarde mansion. I had to stay late to finish them all. And then... when I was about to go home, I saw her. I saw her again. She was standing in front of me again last night, Becca. I couldn't get away. She was blocking the door. If I hadn't hidden myself, even if I made the tiniest noise, if she found me, Becca, she almost did. If she saw me under my table, I think that would have been the end of it. I'm scared. I'm so scared I won't be able to do anything.
By the end, her hands are trembling, and her breathing comes out in rasping intervals. For a long moment, I let the silence stretch out between us, and let her sobs fill it instead. And even as her soft whimpers die down, there's a heaviness hanging in the air. Not just from her, but also from me. From my exasperation over this whole matter, from my own frustrations over her stupid superstitions, and she could do us all a favor and grow back there. She may be young, but she's not that young. It's about time to put an end to this. She can't keep going on like this. She's still got plenty of years to live out. And what if she goes home? What if we're no longer there to keep her fears in line with what's real? What would she do then? I'm more afraid for her, for what that kind of imagination would do to her, rather than some imaginary monster. But with the manner she's looking at me right now, there's an expectation, a hope, and a plea sewn together. She wants me to believe her this time. If it's like that, what am I supposed to say now? What she wants to hear, or what she needs to hear? As much as I want to set her straight, a reprimand isn't what she needs right now. With that pouty face she's giving me, I doubt it'll even end well if I push it. I know her. When she wants to be stubborn, she's stubborn. But there are moments when she can be acquiescent, times when she'll be more accepting of what I tell her, despite her inclination to disagree with it. That talk can wait. In the meantime, I'll be the ear that listens to her, without judging her, without criticizing her despite my own opinions on her.
You should have called me.
She stares at me like I've grown another head, and laughter slips out before I can stop myself.
There? I can't do that! What will you do? Hit her with a book? You'll be dead before that happens. And
That isn't what I'm talking about. After you got out, you should have phoned me. You didn't have to go to Zachary's.
The corners of her mouth curl up. A sheepish smile, by general definition, but this is Isabella. Her smiles are never half-hearted, never lacks her high spirits. In spite of this, I know everything's going to be okay. Somehow. After all, she's learned to pick herself up a long time ago, long before we met.
oh, yeah. Sorry. I don't even remember how I ended up in Zach's place. I was in a hurry to get out of the office, and it was already late. Besides, I don't really think you'll believe me if I wake you up over something like that.
That's beside the point. True or not, there are people who will always be concerned about you. There's Zachary, but he's the first person you went to, and you didn't tell him anything. You just slept there. There's Ashton too, and me. But how do you think I'll be able to explain to your aunt or your family if you suddenly disappeared? Think about that.
Right. I'll remember that next time.
Then she grins. Playful and mischievous, a preamble to an old banter. Still not quite there. She's still not quite back to her usual self, but I know we're bound to get there soon.
Mom!
I told you not to call me that.
I send an elbow to her side for added measure, but when laughter follows the familiar gesture, none of it's unexpected. This is what's comfortable. This is how we found an equal ground despite our stark differences. So for the moment, I accept things the way they are. Afterwards, a hush stretches out before us. For Isabella, this is rare. This isn't her. Yet in this moment, as she fiddles with the edge of another paper near her, or as she hugs her knees close to herself and lets a pensive expression linger, it feels strangely fitting. As if this is where everything was supposed to lead, if we had allowed it a long time ago. Seconds later, the moment's broken by the sound of a door easing open and a voice begging a little
How
peace.
many times have I told you girls not to loiter around the hallway? It's noisy. Some people here are trying to sleep. Quiet down or go do your talking inside. I'm pinning a memo to your door the next time this happens. Millennials.
Sorry, we won't do it again.
Millennials.
You'd better.
The door closes and Isabella starts gathering the mess she's made, carefully stacking them all in her arm. At a loss for what to do, I help her pick them, and for the first time I get a closer look at her. Completely unintentional, of course. But it catches my attention nevertheless, and a confused frown makes its way to my face. Why is she looking through this? I look to her for an explanation, but she ignores it, takes the paper, and finishes cleaning up. The last paper she puts on top is a letter. The one she supposedly found in the mansion, and what's probably the root cause for this odd behavior. I shoot her a questioning look at that too, but all she gives me is a smile. And in a halting tone, so completely unlike her.
Becca, I'll find a way out of this. You guys don't have to worry about me. Anyways, I should go. I'll see you later.
Where are you going?
Getting myself some food. Don't wait for me.
We brought you food. It's right next to you. Isabella walks away before I can stop her. Before I can remind her I'd brought food enough for the two of us. She quickly disappears down the stairwell, and I'm left standing in an empty hallway holding 2 bags of takeout. One of them's going to go uneaten tonight. Just an innocent, passing thought. One that I don't dwell on much as I head back to my room. I ignore all of it, in the same way I assumed I wouldn't ever encounter that douche again. Yo. Which means we should probably encounter him shortly. We're at school. You know. Or as nice as it can get with the worries of Isabella's whereabouts creeping up to me every now and then. She hasn't showed up after that last talk we had in the hallway, and the dinner I've bought had since been given to a different neighbor before it spoils. By all means, this shouldn't be anything to lose sleep over. She's gone on work trips before, usually for a day or two. This simply might be one of those. Although it's often with a message saying exactly where. But it's the dour note she ended our chat with last night that gnaws. I've noticed that the game likes to take certain events where everything's absent. And I'm assuming that the reason that she could be absent for the next couple of days, and why I don't think we've seen her past this point, is because the game didn't know whether or not we would be able to save her, I guess. I don't know if she can die. The other ones could have. I suspect maybe if we had stayed home instead of go to work, that we could have died. But it's possible she's just off being busy with another character we haven't played yet, like Ashton. Or it could be the game allowing for the possibility that we made other choices.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things start to settle and a steady rhythm finally worms its way back into my routine, Thursday morning brings a further disturbance to the now calm waters. A little ceremony, still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen this coming. Luxburn is a small city, relatively speaking. Compared to, say, London or Glasgow, it's nothing but a tiny mass of land boasting a mere population of 68,000. But those numbers alone are nothing to scoff at when standing in a busy street. And if you pay close enough attention, faces taking the crosswalk or riding the subway will soon grow familiar. How unfortunate that out of that number it has to be T.O. fucking Luke that I encounter more than once.
Oh, you know, a few problems popping up here and there that the agents failed to tell us somehow. Nothing a few hired hands can't fix, of course. I would have preferred a place near the city and something that's new to save us all the trouble, but darling wife insisted. Who am I to say no?
Ah, are you kidding me?
His smug head is the first thing I see upon turning into the hall, and in spite of the small crowd of parents and students gathered at the door for primary's career day. It's not that he stands out, he's pretty unremarkable at first glance, frankly. However, it's his countenance that draws people's eyes to him. The manner he carries himself, with all the confidence in the world, his mere presence dwarfing everything around him. I'm willing to make a bet that he's also enjoying the attention it garners him, especially the ones coming from the lady.
What an ass.
A single glance at him, and I know immediately that one way or another, if we ever bump into each other again, my day will effectively be ruined in some capacity. He also exudes that air. That sort that makes you want to run him over with a lorry and pass it off as an unfortunate accident. With him, it's either you want to punch him or let yourself be charmed, and there's no in between. I'll gladly do the honor of the former myself, but alas, there are people around us. Now I'm stuck with having to face one of the
I
two.
shouldn't have volunteered.
At the time, helping out seemed like a good idea. I had no classes left today until after lunch. I could have opted to stay in the teacher's lounge and work on my lesson plans, but that means being left alone with our deputy head and his chatter. He's a good man, but Crivens, he can talk anyone's ears off. So, the moment an opportunity arose, I jumped on it. A simple task to boot. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event. Maybe stay around and assist if time will allow it. I just wasn't expecting him to show up here. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Had I known, I would have stayed and suffered through our deputy's impromptu speeches about his life crisis instead. But what's done is done. Going back is also out of the question. But how unexpectedly heavy the load I'm carrying is, I'd hate to lug this for a trip back just because my pride can't take another second of interaction with the guy. He's insufferable, alright, but I've had my fair share of dealing with teens, or more or less of the same temperament, all considerably younger than him, and they listened. If he wants to be difficult like last time, so be it. But he can bet his sorry English ass I'm not standing down. Left with no other choice, I brace myself, suck in a quick breath, and muster every bit of patience I have as I step out into the hall. My grip on the box tightens when I pull it closer to me, and attempt to assume a low-key air as I move towards the room. The box is not big enough to hide my face, even with the stuff piled on top. But if all else fails, I can just hit him with it. Still, a small prayer forms in my head. If there's even one listening out there, please grant me enough restraint. Better yet, I hope he doesn't notice me at all. It would definitely make my life easier. Seriously, how hard can it be? He's standing a few ways from the door. A few ways from the door, really. Doesn't even make sense, game. He's standing a few feet from the door, and there's plenty of people between us to use for cover. If I'm careful, I can just go in, hand in the stupid box to whoever's in charge, and forget every plan of staying longer than necessary and get out of there. Easy as pie. But as luck would have it, the exact moment I reach the room's threshold, someone barrels towards me. She latches onto my waist before toppling the sudden commotion with a gleeful squeal.
I knew it's you!
The force of it nearly throws me off balance, sending the item stock protected box tilting dangerously towards the side. With the child's added weight at my waist, pinning me to the spot, and both my hands occupied, watching's the only thing I'm able to do. The short seconds between, slow, as everything practically slides off the box's small surface. Under different circumstances, this would have made for a funny story. Comical, even. Until another set of hands reaches out and steadies the posters, threatening to take a nosedive right to the floor. Careful now, Daisy, don't make a mess here. My entire body freezes. Upon hearing his voice alone, an irrational impulse to hit him immediately bubbles up. But before my limbs could catch up with what my brain is currently scheming, he moves to take the burden out of my arms. Irritation gives way to surprise, and then confusion. It's in that moment when instinct finally kicks in and I tug the box closer to me before he can finally lift it
What
off.
are you doing?
What does it look like? You're surprisingly slow on the uptake for someone of your profession, aren't you? Bloody, doesn't this school have people for this kind of work? So much for being a center of academic excellence.
I'm going to ignore that slight to my alma mater and my work, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. You know what? Why don't we just rephrase that to something you'll easily understand? Why exactly are you doing this?
Well, you look like you could use a bit of help. Have you seen your face while you were heaving this around?
Mister, I'm pretty sure if there's ever a look on my face, it's entirely because I saw something extremely unpleasant this morning.
Aren't you a ball of sunshine today, Daisy? Having a bad day, aren't we?
Oh, you have no idea.
I'd put it away if I were you. You might scare the children.
You don't have to worry about that. This isn't my department. I was just asked to bring these. Anyway, I can handle this myself, mister. The room's just right over there. Behind you, in fact. Now, if you could please move over and make way, it would do the whole world some good.
keeping my voice level throughout is a miracle in itself. But regardless of how polite my request is, he doesn't move. Did what I say just fly over his head? Was my choice of words really that difficult to comprehend? Surely it shouldn't be that hard. I think he might be a little touched in the head. I'd like to ask him that, actually, but Kylie chooses that instant to
Don't worry, Miss Pink. Tio's strong. You can leave this to him. My papa does it lots of times, but I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Tio says it's confidential.
I'm starting to sense whatever Ashton might be on.
Confidential, Munchkin.
That's right. Tio's smart, isn't he, Miss Pink?
I'm still of the opinion that he's a piece of shite, but I must admit his goddaughter's excitement is contagious, as always. A smile makes its way to my lips. She's yet to budge from her place, though, to be honest, and I'm starting to lose some feeling on my stomach with how tightly she's wound her arms around
I'm
it.
sure he is, Kylie. But I'm also sure he'll find better use for it elsewhere.
Like helping you out.
Oh, well, that's one thing, but
You heard the kid.
no one's asking you.
You warned me, woman.
No one's asking you.
And I'm quite certain I can do more damage than that. Shall we give it a try? Again?
He pales, stammers for a bit, until he ultimately decides against saying anything and settles for a brief show of discomfort instead. He's probably having flashbacks of the last time we met. His composure, when he finally regains some of his bearings, says it all. It's nothing short of hilarious, if I do say so myself.
I'll have you know that threats never work on me, Daisy. Not in a million years, not ever.
You're assuming it's a threat. How cute.
That too. I'm not scared of you, just because you landed a hit.
Do go on. Keep telling yourself that.
It was a fluke, you hear? I was caught off guard and your damn book left a dent. If I end up in a hospital because of what you did, I'm sending the chief of Luxburg Police after you, woman.
You don't say.
Just give me that bloody box.
He snatches it out of my arms before a single word of protest exits my mouth. He quickly disappears behind the classroom. Not that it matters who brings it in now. My prior irritation's already melted into amusement. He's not so bad once you figure out how his temperament works. It's almost similar to a child. Though I still have to ask.
Kylie, did your Tio eat something bad before coming here? He's unusually nice today.
A far-fetched idea, I know, but it's the only reason I can think of why the arsehole's suddenly acting like a decent human, and he is, quite frankly, far from being. First and foremost, we didn't end our last meeting on a good tone. If I were him, I'd avoid the very person who put a dent in his skull, as he so aptly put it. Why is he acting friendly 2 days later?
He always is. But I made him promise to be extra nice to you since you helped me so much. I think you're gonna be great friends.
Well, I feel like this is almost certainly what Kylie was talking about when she was talking about a boy and a girl who weren't getting along with each other to Luke a while back. I quickly stomp on the urge to groan loudly or gag at that. He's the last person I'd ever want to be chummy with in this whole city, but Kylie doesn't need to know.
Are you sure it's not something he ate during breakfast?
I gave him some jelly babies this morning. Really brought me lots of them. Mama said I should share, so I offered half of it to Tio when he picked me up. He likes the black ones.
Oh, that's probably why he's weird. Jelly baby overdose.
Could have done everyone a favor and choked on it while he's
Do
at it.
you want some? I've got more. I couldn't find Melody or Takako this morning, but I'm sure he'll be fine sharing some of it with you.
No, I'm not really very fond of them. I was just asking. Oh, where's your mum, by the way?
Out of town with Papa.
An unexpected pang hits me at her words. The statement, though innocent enough, unearths a whole trunk of memories from childhood. So eerily familiar. Nights spent eating dinners alone, the number of days coming home to an empty house growing with each passing year. And sometimes several Christmas Eves spent with relatives instead of my own family. It's too late to think about it now, but when I remember, the dull ache is still there. Familiar, no lessened by the years now. Beside me, Kylie takes a step back, having gotten tired of clinging to me. There's nothing but cheer in her. She doesn't seem too affected by the fact. Though it makes me wonder how much of it's real and how much is there to mask the loneliness. What a lucky child.
Weren't they informed of career day beforehand?
Yeah, I told them all about it. Mama was looking forward to it.
And they still left?
Uh-huh. It's important business, so it can't be helped. They promised to tell me about it when they come back tomorrow, though. Papa said he'll give me a gift if I behave. I've been a good girl, right, Miss Pink?
You always are. But they asked they asked your Tio to look after you? For this?
That douche.
Nope, they didn't.
No? Then how?
It was supposed to be Tia. Mama likes her better than Tio, so she asked her, but she's sick and had to visit the doctor today. Oh, that's supposed to be a secret, by the way. Oh, but I think it's a bit confusing because Tio said she also went shopping. That's unfair. Don't you think so, Miss Pink? Mama doesn't allow me to go out when I'm sick. It's still okay, though. Since Tio always buys me sweets before we go home, I'm gonna ask for a parfait today. Extra large.
When you say that would hurt your tummy.
Don't tell Takako, okay?
Listening to her like this, it's easy to get a picture of where Kylie's fondness for the guy comes from. She's not a demanding child. Unless you've made a promise of some sort, she never forgets those. And that seems to be true for most children, by the way. You make them a promise, you really should stick to it. They remember that. Buy her a few things, and voila, you're settled. No wonder she's so attached to the man. The douche probably showers her with gifts whenever he can. You can't say if the sentiment's the same for the latter, however. He doesn't seem the type, and probably just does it for the sake of getting some peace and quiet whenever he's with the girl. Classic techniques.
But before that, I'm gonna show him to everyone first. It's gonna be great. No one else has a gazillionaire fairy godfather. Also, when I grow up, I'm gonna be exactly like him and marry someone really handsome.
Oh, please don't.
Like Tia did. That way, I can be awesome too.
Oh. Kid, you can be awesome without marrying anybody at all. There's some sort of misguided logic in there that I'd like to correct. But before I can say my piece, Douchebag steps in, fresh out of the commotion with the classroom behind us, and he plows into the conversation with the subtlety of a wrecking ball. No shite given, despite no one asking for his.
Munchkin, sweetie, trust me. You don't have to marry someone for that to happen.
I don't?
Just do your thing, darling. I'm quite sure you can do great things on your own without lugging around an extra baggage with you.
Tia married you.
Kylie drops the statement without any sort of preface, and the moment it lands, the douche finds himself grappling with the conversation.
Yeah, well, that's true, Munchkin, technically, but it's not the same thing.
A small frown creases the girl's eyebrows as she tries to comprehend Tio's rather vague explanation. It's not surprising either, when Luke tenses under the child's questioning gaze. It's familiar. I've seen the same look a great deal of times before, on Ashton, when he's trying to say something he can't quite phrase. Another second passes before the douche moves, kneeling in front of Kylie and placing both hands on either sides of his shoulder. Kind is the last word I'd ever use to describe him, but in this minute there's a smile on his face that I can't place. Tender by all means for someone as obnoxious as him. It's a curious thing to see. If not a bit odd.
Listen here, sweetie, Tia was already a great person before she met me.
She is? But I don't see her doing anything. She's always at home.
Not always, Munchkin. Did you know she's really good at numbers?
You're good with them too. You helped me with my homework once.
Well, Tia's much better than me. She used to do maths with big numbers.
Oh, like millions?
No, gazillions. And she's really good at it. So much so that her dad let her manage anything that had to do with it. That was even before she met me, too.
Does that mean she's better than you?
Oh, leagues, Munchkin. Way better than I'll ever be.
For some reason, I don't think he's still talking about his wife's mathematical prowess as his voice trails off. In fact, if I hadn't been paying closer to attention, I wouldn't have noticed the change in him. The slight shift in his smile, from one that's tender to something wistful. Like remembering a memory he's always been fond of, but is often kept to himself. At the fleeting glance of it, a tiny, insignificant part of the world also somehow shifts. Opinions change, and impressions...
You know what? Why don't you ask Tia next time you have homework,
Okay, next time I'll ask her to help out.
See? No need to marry a good-for-nothing bloke.
Can I also tell her to not stay at home anymore? If Tia's good at it, I'm sure she can help you out too. And Papa. He computes a lot of numbers too. Tia can help him.
I feel like the whole papa thing and stuff like that, I think we're looking at like some serious industrial, I don't know, skimming off the top or something horrible and financial like this. Remember, the Wright Corporation was going down in the first place, and I think Luke knows that some of that's going on. He's probably somewhat shitty, being torn apart because he's hiding that from his wife. Maybe.
You go do that. I'm sure she'll love to hear it, Munchkin, even if it's been a while since.
Another silence from him without missing a beat, and he turns Kylie around and lightly pats her shoulder in a gesture to end their conversation right there. Probably before he can say other things he never intended to say to a child.
But off you go first. I think I saw your friend run off to the other classroom. The one with the pigtails? Go say hi to her. You still have those jelly babies to give her, yes?
Alright! But wait for me, okay? I've got loads more to show you. They put up my drawing on the bulletin the other day. I'm gonna take you there later. I'll be back.
Why do you want to bet that drawing is that creepy-ass witch lady? She soon disappears behind the small crowd, none the wiser to the sudden change in the mood around her. Luke straightens as soon as she's gone, and the expression on his face grows less kind now that there's no one to reassure. Despite that, a chuckle still escapes me. His head quickly snaps at me, an accusing glare in his eyes. Well, it's less threatening now, considering what I've witnessed earlier. Funny how one person's impression can easily change with that minute
Why are you
detail.
laughing like that?
Don't mind me. I just saw something surprising today. Don't let it bother you.
Putting it like that won't make me any less inclined to ask. What is it, woman? If this is another one of your threats, I've already told you it isn't going to work on me. That good teacher act isn't going to fool anyone.
Is it going to fool anyone?
What makes you think it has to do with you? I could have just remembered something funny. Not everything in this world revolves around you, mister.
I am not daft, Daisy. It's on your face for all the world to see. Now, say it so we can be done with this stupid talk.
I let out another laugh, more to delay than to express any sort of amusement over the matter. In truth, I don't even know where to start. One wrong move, one wrong word, and I might offend him. Ah well, regardless of how he acts, it's not like it'll have an impact on anything between us. I have no plans of getting too friendly with the man, though he might have some good points. The emphasis is on might. The best treatment I can hope myself to give him is to stop thinking of him as a sleazy douche. Besides, after seeing that look on him, I figure something like him can use a little compliment here and there. He probably doesn't get it much, considering how coarse his own language can get.
Can't you act a wee bit polite for even a second of your life? It won't kill you. You'll easily get answers that way, you know? Instead of demanding things from people like a temperamental man-child.
I'll be nice when I want to be, woman. Don't tell me what to do.
And here I was just thinking how you're doing a brilliant job as Kylie's guardian. Was I mistaken?
Was I mistaken? What? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Stop playing dumb. I hate to admit it, but you actually seem to be good with kids. Possibly even better than most of the teachers here. What do you know?
I expected him to just take it all in, to bloat his ego more, and even to brag about it. Instead, what I get is a sound from him resembling a squawk. Or maybe that's him choking on his own pride. I can't tell above the hubbub surrounding us. But when I glance at him, only a mortified expression is on his face. No.
No? You should be proud of yourself. At least there's this one good thing about you. Isn't that nice to hear? Pretty sure not a lot of compliments get thrown around about you, knowing how you are.
There are a lot of good things about me, Daisy. My hair, for one. There's also my extraordinary good looks. Wax lyrical about those all you want. I'd be happy to hear it any day. Praise anything about me but that.
What is so repulsive about it? Even Kylie likes you. Shouldn't that tell you anything about yourself?
Kylie is one kid, not even my own. Trust me, you do not want to see me bring a spawn of my own into this world. It will be an abomination.
Is that what you keep telling yourself?
Maybe. Is it any of your business?
No. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say this is because you yourself think you're a little piece of shite and somehow it'll pass on. It doesn't work like that, by the way.
That last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth in it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even from my own standards of the kind of person I'm talking to, it's quite rude. An apology is already in my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I've prepared to say dissipates. Lost in the moment in front of me. He's turned his gaze outside, staring at some point past the buildings, blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in his thoughts. He's a vexing man. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming from the window lends his features a certain air. Softer, less severe than what he often flaunts. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note in his voice when he finds it, words muttered under his breath, not intended for anyone but himself. Nevertheless, it reaches my ears, unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
All that talk about self-worth makes some sense now. It isn't some profound knowledge he pulled out of his arse. It has come about because he's already been there, likely still stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experience is easier, after all. Less room for mistakes, more for a dose of self-loathing. What a complicated man. Just when you thought you've already figured him out, he does one thing and says the other. People like him are the most difficult to gauge, far harder to understand. Yet it might be exactly for this reason that some are so easily charmed by him. It's the mystery that catches them, of wanting to find out what's underneath that bravado. I won't count myself among those, yet his winning personality isn't exactly my cup of tea. But sometimes, once you get a glimpse of what's beyond that machismo, empathizing with the man isn't such a steep hill to climb. Which no doubt is why the game has painted him so awful, made us viscerally dislike him, by having him be awful to all the sympathetic characters, and then we get this sympathetic moment with him. If the comfortable silence we now share tells anything, that is, perhaps this is as close to friendship as we can get. Several insults flung around, with a few shared silences between, and it's not exactly a bad thing. He's not exactly a bad guy either, despite the awkward start we've had. Maybe it's for that reason that I can't resist throwing in a little comment to lift his mood before leaving.
You know, Luke, you're not such a bad person.
Is that supposed to make me feel better? I'm touched, Daisy.
Take it how you will, but a little attitude change would help. A lot.
Oh, bollocks. Right, of course. Let me know when you're done with your lecture, ma'am.
And you can probably start by not leaving your wife out while you're having some quality time with your goddaughter. Who knows? Maybe that'll help change how the child sees her.
Where did you even get the idea I'm leaving my wife out? Have you ever even met?
No, but I did see her with you two last time.
His indifferent expression quickly dissolves into a confused scowl, while I meet it with matching perplexity. It's only been 2 days. Surely his memory isn't that bad.
What? When was this?
At the cafe. After you left. She was sitting right beside you. Kylie was at the back and you were driving.
Daisy, are you sure you haven't accidentally hit yourself with your own book? Because that damn thing's quite big. And I'm really getting worried about you. It has only been a few days, and concussions can be dangerous. I suggest you have that checked.
Well, you asked. I just answered. It's pretty rude to make her wait like that, by the way.
How can I make her wait when she's not even with us?
What?
It was just Kylie and I that night.
Now you're just pulling my leg.
Luke exhales, long and drawn out, his impatience rapidly changing the companionable air around us. In the face of it, I tense. I accidentally stepped onto another minefield, and any chat I've had with him so far has been like this. Why this still surprises me escapes me, but Above my worries of offending the man is my own bewilderment. I remember well enough what I saw that night, and he says something completely different.
Wifey was out with Kylie's mummy that night. She wasn't with us. How do you think I ended up on babysitting duty?
But in the front seat. And Kylie's...
Miss Pink!
Kylie's sobs reach my ears first, and then her familiar weight returns around my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it, her arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips shut tight with concern. Her cries are soft enough not to attract much attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered inside the rooms now anyway. Those that still linger watch our little group with great interest and concern. If I don't get a better handle of the situation, I have a feeling like Luke will start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, cupping her face and wiping away tears, creating little trails on her cheeks. Her mouth is drawn in a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie. Calm down. What happened?
It's my friend!
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Takako.
Yeah.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods and then immediately clams up after, letting her sobs communicate the story instead. As much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff while he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling children crying. What a wuss.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
Seconds pass before she responds again. The tears are already gone when she finally musters the strength to talk.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out!
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
Is she still there?
Another nod.
She won't say what's wrong! I kept asking her, but she told me to go away! Career Day's going to start soon! I saw the prizes Miss Alice will give us if we're good! She's gonna miss it!
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen! She won't even take the jelly babies! After I saved it for her, too! Tia Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told him it's not for him! Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out, and I'm really upset with her.
Ah, just a little childish argument. Times like this, I'm glad I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children, and I won't mind having one or two of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. I honestly admire my colleagues who willingly took the challenge. Normally, I'd leave this for the homeroom teachers to fix, but I can't just ignore the imploring look she shoots me. That's another weakness I'll have to steel myself against if I ever think about having one of my own. For now, I give in to it.
Okay. Tell me where she is, sweetie.
Sighing, I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. Luke trails quietly behind us. Even with the small distance in between, his apprehension is palpable. Understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, this is all just a part of my job. I can't shy away from it, can I? Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall, with the same room numbers and the same posters on the wall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining its sides are empty. Save for the gentle rustling of leaves and the twittering of birds outside, and the tapping of our foot against the floor, the whole area is eerily quiet. It's not unusual, though. This is the part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the school day. And with the rest of the school busy for another event, it's only natural for it to be this deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, it'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait for the end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we made the turn down the hallway, she stopped sniffling and started singing a tune under her breath. Please don't play London Bridge.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down.
Probably to brace or calm
falling down.
herself.
London
This may be her
Bridge
way
is
of preparing to
falling
pull
down,
a friend out of the
my fair lady.
Certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door's slightly ajar when we get to it. From inside, the sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible even in this kind of hush. Well, what do you guys think? Is Kylie's friend a creepy-ass ghost girl? I mean, it seems possible, right? Turns out Kylie's not the only one upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms on my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but endearing things about them outweigh those, otherwise we'd have killed them all long ago. All you need is enough patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no signs of abating. Instead, they only grow louder. Not close to a wail. Alarming, regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I'm standing, it sounds almost like she's in some sort of pain. It's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for fear of a reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also makes sense why she chose the loo furthest from the classroom. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait and amble toward the door. Calmly, so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distinct deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door with somebody crying on the other side. My calls ignored as their cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation as before doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up for a child beside me. What? I'm putting up a front. Brave face. I'm putting up a brave face for the child beside me. But the thick undercurrent of worry trickles down my stomach. I take one last breath and I nudge open the door. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it 2 steps into the room. Her cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat. And when I turn...
Kylie?
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her. Words catching in my throat, and heart rapidly pounding against my chest. This is Kylie. I'm sure of it. Yet, nothing in the manner she speaks, or the way that she tilts her head in question, carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of a child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
But it's not those that trigger a memory, it's the chilling eyes. Calling. Beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once, the memory returns to me. A tide that's receded, and now returns to shore with an overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago. A world passing by in a blur, and features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child beside me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There's no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down a pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a small, twisted smile. They brim with venom I never expected to see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding around in my neck. You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die. Can't breathe. Those whispers and the laughter again. Judging, mocking, taunting, each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tips of my fingers, every digit gone rigid from the cold. And with every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coils wrapped around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual, torturous descent into another bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me!
Until darkness claims me, and unexpectedly a note. In the distance, harsh, piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here? I'll have all morning to wait for you two.
My eyes snap open and the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger, no vile hatred, just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings and myself as warmth steadily slips back to me. I've reached out for the nearby counter to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip on it is. It's over now, and yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in an erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do to an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Tio, okay? Stay here and don't move.
No need. Just leave me alone.
Tio will know how to fix you. Oh, wait, okay?
I wish I could speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my insides in anticipation. Of what? No longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break into a run, brushing off the anxious look Kylie gives me when I gently push her away on my way out, or the furrow in Luke's brows as I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw in my face, I care not to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. And yet she's harsh on her same friend, experiencing all sorts of terrifying visions. The tremors continue long after the last of my classes have ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances every time a pen slips from my hand or my shoulders tense whenever called. That's the second time that we've been snapped out of it by somebody else. I don't think Rebecca has it in her to deal with that drowning blackness, so we just need to avoid it if we ever get an option. We will not ever investigate a thing, I think. How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Sort of like Zack and us saying, nope, we're not going into the, we're not going to break into the mansion window and find out who the crying woman is. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You'd think being on my fourth cup of tea would provide some sort of comfort. Oh, is this the fifth? Egad, what is counting matter now? The fact is, I can't easily shake it off. The last time this happened, I passed it off with some lapse on my part after having been sick.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories, a centuries-old lore passed on by the locals to keep children in line. The place doesn't have those. One of my Da's books even went as far as to describe them as the strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed on unborn children straight from a mother's womb. Or hell, there's even that one story about a demon baby. Old folklore that never had a smidge of truth in it. It was probably told to scare off the natives there back in the old days, much like everyone in every other place. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
A terrible thing, if true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon, the ringing of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up and my brows knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen and trying to remember when I entered this person on my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eyes zero in on the book lying wide open on the table. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff, apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end, she'd given it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I'd completely forgotten about it until now, and, well, I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally, I'd be done with the whole volume of this size after a few days. Or one or two, depending on how busy I am, but finding a chance to sit down and read through it's been more difficult lately than I'd anticipated. One moment I'm simply busy grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere the next, and then someone suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend shows up. Right after, worrying reports pop up in the local news. There simply hasn't been enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I have been flipping through the pages of said book mere moments ago, though not really reading anything, and just hoping for a distraction. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I don't hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello! Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon, unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It's a peculiar question to ask someone you've just met, but I answer her. I'm more curious where she's heading with this by starting.
Born and raised. Third-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright. I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected it would lead to this. She must not have lived here long if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived. That's Isabella, superstitious down to the last hair. Oh, it wouldn't be too far off to think that Marianne's only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for so many years and having so many chances to look it up.
The Ermengarde Mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is... Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this.
It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things.
No, wait! It's alright, I don't mind.
There's a moment's pause before she responds again. She's right in that this is a silly thing to talk about, especially between what I assume are two people who are pretty grounded in their beliefs with regards to these things. Won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, alright. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place's past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her a concise summary. From the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago, and who had it built, up to the point it got deserted after the last heir's death and the deed was passed on to the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, this house already would have faded into obscurity a long time ago. Demolished, even. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard before, yet there's dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
As far as I know, there's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort from the tea I've drank has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. This whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
She ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser, considerably heavier, in light of what I've learned from that conversation. I don't think Marion's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine, I'll give her that, but she's left a lot of things. I get the sense she only asked because something's happening around her too, and if she didn't mention the letter, we probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in this. All these are just assumptions, no concrete conclusion to be formed with what we have. And if we want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Marianne's right. There might be something more to those stories, as absurd as it sounds. The very place that gave us that letter might tell us something beyond what we know. And tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the house. Totally not an exciting thought, since the place is privately owned now. I can't just wander around. But it's enough to keep the dread at bay as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. However, all those good vibes disappear into thin air when I run headfirst into Luke. There's really something in this man. Regardless of how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him, without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth. His mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy.
An
You've
arse.
done better than that.
Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belatedly, I notice his hand, partly raised, almost poised for a knock. With a slight lift of the eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and returns to Kylie. She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the ground with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make vague gestures at me, and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air with the way that he's moving his arms. Though I think he's trying to urge her to speak.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Tio.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Did she just blackmail him? Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him a little more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees her. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration's been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his
You,
lips.
come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You'd think the man is getting an aneurysm simply by being polite.
Please?
Tio said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Yeah, that seems
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton would get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer of free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second I find all of my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun! You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes at me from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence, and for a second I'm spared the act of giving an answer either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself, with disgruntled expressions on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I said it didn't lose me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking, a message from Ashton shows up. Hey Becca, I'll be around Salem Well this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place afterwards. See ya. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way it's phrased, it sounds to be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back to my pocket, but looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone, and I kinda hate to
Well,
ruin that.
Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait, or that he's expecting me to be there, but there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former's already made it clear he'll be busy this week, and well, Ashton was my first choice from the start. Even if he detests attending gatherings like this. It's company that counts, and we can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer would be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If, by some miracle, he agrees to it, he'll probably be skulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that, but still, I have other things to do. When you look at it closely, it isn't such a difficult decision to make. First and foremost, no matter where I look at this, it is inappropriate to some degree. Disregarding Luke's honest intentions, I've only known the man for a grand total of 2 days, including today. If I'm going to be thoroughly specific, I'll give it a grand total of 10 hours. By all means, that's not enough reason for me to join them for dinner, even if he says Kylie's the one who requested it. To other people, it wouldn't appear as innocent as he makes it out to be, and if there's one ugly thing about this city, it's the place's penchant for inane gossip. One little spark, and it'll spread like wildfire. Who knows how far it'll go, how many ears it will reach. What if Ashton hears about it? I'd rather not think about the consequences to that. I've got enough on my plate as it is, being at the center of a rumor mill along with this man, in whatever form it takes, sends unpleasant chills down my spine. My answer must have already shown in my face. Yeah, we lost a little, that's fine, but we're mostly good friends with people. As Kylie's smile immediately dissolves.
You're not gonna join us, are you?
Maybe next time.
I'm sorry, Kylie. I'd love to, but I have other things to do. Another time, maybe? A friend just texted me about something urgent, and he wants to meet tonight.
Just say it's a date, Daisy. The little rugrat will understand. She's not an infant. No need for blatant lies.
Heat instantly crawls into my face at his baseless insinuations. What I would give for another chance to put a real dent in his skull.
What even gave you that idea? And even if it is, why do you care? Stop sticking your nose in other people's affairs!
Oh, your face says it all, woman. You think I won't recognize those longing looks?
There isn't a look, you Ugh! There isn't a look, all right?
Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, Daisy.
You already have a story written inside that head of yours, don't you?
Oh, please. It's not that interesting. The color of your face does suit you, though. Matches the hair. Well, come on now, Munchkin. I'll just buy you an extra glass of that parfait.
Man, you're gonna make her fat. Stop doing that.
With extra strawberries?
Hold on.
I'll get you a basket full if you want. As long as you behave. And no complaints if they don't have enough syrup again. Deal?
Deal.
At least she's easy to bribe.
Have fun with your date, Miss Pink.
Upon reaching the end of the hall, however, he doesn't miss the chance to shoot me another one of those infuriating winks. Does he really think women enjoy those? I'd sue him for harassment if I could. I must admit, the two of them walking together hand in hand is an endearing sight in itself. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see that some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? It's something to mull over, along with every other confusing and frustrating thing about this guy. Some other time, though. Ashton's waiting. His car's headlights have been left turned on, illuminating the otherwise empty parking lot. If it's like that, it's probably just going to be a quick visit. Though our landlady would probably have a few hundred words to say before letting go. Not many in this complex own a vehicle. Anyway, the warmth of space is frequent in use, owing to this area's proximity to downtown Bucksburg. No one's going to be disturbed if one car stays parked with its lights on for a few minutes. Right now, though, it serves as a pleasant company while I idle inside my own car, thumbing the invitation's fine print, flipping it over and over until the motions become familiar. What should I say? How should I say it? There's a very high chance he'll say no, but on the off chance he accepts, what should I do? Fears, doubts, questions I haven't asked before, and more often than not, the anxiety's because of him. 17 years ago, I've been in the same position, different letter in hand. Somehow, nothing has changed. Perhaps if he'd noticed how I've always felt about it, I wouldn't be in this predicament. Honestly, he managed to ace all those exams at schools without even lifting a finger, and he couldn't figure this out.
How dense can he get?
But I can't very well wait for another 2 decades just for something as measly as an invitation, can I? It's not like it's going to be a date. Although, frankly, I wouldn't mind if it was. However, that's a wish best reserved for some other time. It won't get anywhere if I just keep thinking about what else. Gathering all my thoughts and courage, I step out of my car and gingerly make my way upstairs, invitation in hand. And ever since the incident 3 days ago, there's a strange air permeating the atmosphere. Weighted, but the sort that slowly trickles through you until the burden of it finally bogs you down to some sort of disquiet. The day's scents have been uneasy, and Isabella's absence from her flat does not help settle it. Every day, coming home somewhat feels like an uphill battle in itself, leaving you spent when you're supposed to be getting some rest. Is Zach experiencing the same thing? I certainly am. The same weary slump is The same weary slump is also on Ashton's shoulders once I catch a glimpse of him. He's leaning casually on the rails, his back against his metal surface while reading through a bunch of papers. Each one appears more important than the other despite me never having read a letter of it. He'll probably head back to the precinct after this if he's not going to drop by Zach's for a little bit of shut-eye. No rest for the wicked. But no matter how occupied he seems, he pauses anyway and looks up from his work the moment he hears my treads. He raises a hand in greeting as a small smile spreads across his lips. Exhausted as I am, I can't help but return it.
What brought you here?
He hums something inaudible, either an answer or a vague hint, before he turns his attention back to the papers. For a passing second, I thought he'd evade or ignore the question like every other time I've asked. But then he shuffles the documents back to a binder and sets it aside with a huff. Sound, more fatigued than I've heard from him. Either there's simply too many things keeping him busy at once, or his investigation isn't going well. Or maybe both.
Just work.
Just work? Do you expect me to believe that?
In a way. I didn't think an important contact ditched me and now I'm stuck would make for a cool alibi. Did it work?
As if there's going to be any difference. You're still a dafty. Anyway, do you want to come in? But if you're going to hang around for a bit, you better turn those headlights off. My landlady's one hairline away from banning you off this place, you know? Stop taking the piss out of her. She's a nice woman.
When she stops taking the piss out of Shirley, maybe I will.
You and your bloody car.
The first time I heard the name, I did a double take. For the way he put it, it's as if he was talking about some woman he met somewhere, surprisingly got along with, and had grown fond of. Never mind how possible that is, knowing his lack of interest for people outside of our small circle. Honestly, it sent a surge of panic in me. It lasted for days. Till he proudly introduced me to his new car. His car!
Hey, it's a nice name. Don't laugh at it. You'll hurt her feelings. I'm gonna have to give that offer a pass, though.
Nothing unexpected, but admittedly I was hoping he'd stay for a few minutes. Suddenly, asking him to accompany me to some housewarming party is starting to turn into a bad idea. If he can't even be bothered to spare a second of his time for his friends, what more if he has to stand... That doesn't make any sense. If he can't be bothered to spend a second of his time with his friends tonight, why would he hang out for hours in a room full of strangers tomorrow?
I need to get going. I just dropped in to check on something and...
His words trail off, cut mid-sentence on purpose, and leaving me to comprehend the rest of it. At the same time, his eyes shift, momentarily, towards the door closest to us. Isabella's unit. Eerily quiet now, in her absence. The instant his lips curve into a small frown and his shoulders tense, I knew work was far from his reasons for being here. Being all too aware of the idea alone summons another dull ache straight into my chest. Like every time, every single moment, he affords her the attention he can never seem to spare others. While it's a worry better left for a different situation, it twinges the heart, nevertheless.
Is there a problem?
Nothing of note. Abigail just wanted to ask her a few things. It's related to that incident with Cooper. You heard the one.
Hold on. She isn't in trouble, is she?
No, I don't think so. Not as far as I know. And do you really think Scaredy Cat can do anything like that? It's just an off-the-record thing, okay? Abigail wanted to confirm something. She knows I'm friends with someone working at BRC, so she asked me. Apparently she isn't getting anything from that company, as long as the red tape's in the way. It's nothing urgent, though. She isn't answering her phone again, so I thought I'd check myself. I can wait until she gets home.
If she comes home soon. The last time I saw her was 2 nights ago.
His demeanor immediately changes. Despite his careful attempt to appear nonchalant, his eyes scream of an unspoken worry. It's almost painful to see how much he tries to hide it, especially in front of someone he's known for years.
What? Did she take a vacation or something?
No word from her, unfortunately. And I don't think she'll go on a trip without telling us. It's been 2 days. 3 if she's not going to show up tomorrow either. Do you think we might have to file a missing person report?
I hope not. But let me know if anything happens. You know how to contact me. I'll see you later, Becca.
Ashton squeezes my shoulder, light as he can, before stepping away and heading straight for the stairs. His way of offering comfort in the middle of this little mess we found ourselves in. But amidst all of this, a tiny voice at the back of my mind nudges at a memory, something I've forgotten and the very reason I chose to return home early. He's made it 4 steps down when the realization kicks in, and awareness of the envelope I've been holding returns to me. Panic rears before proper words can form or I can think about the situation. Not a second sooner and I'm calling out.
Ashton, wait!
He halts, 1 foot already down another step when he turns to me, raising an eyebrow in question. And of all times, it's in this moment when I falter, the adrenaline from earlier's panic suddenly receding. All of a sudden, none of the things I'm prepared to say will take form, and I'm caught between simply forgetting about this or just blurting it out to him while hoping for the best. Hey, it went up. Good. There's nothing wrong with trying, I suppose. I'm not going to lose anything if he says no. Which frankly has a very high chance of happening, than the opposite. Though, the thought still doesn't prevent heat from crawling up my face and send my heart racing. It's better to get this over with before my throat closes up and I lose my nerve.
Tomorrow afternoon. Do you have time?
Achievement unlocked 1 step closer. A small frown is already on his face. I already see where this is going and what he's thinking from that alone. Yet for some mulish reason I continue, hanging on to that tiny glimmer of hope that he'll say yes if I present an argument good enough for him.
That depends. Why?
Well, you see, someone sent an invite for a housewarming party, and I thought you might want to...
Rebecca, I'd rather stand on the messy end of a gunshot. You know that.
I'd rather stand on the messy end of a gunshot. Wow.
I know, it's just... You're one of the few people I can count on with things like this.
That's cool, I appreciate the thought. But really, Zach's a better companion. Gatherings like that just aren't my cup of tea.
It did cross my mind, you know. If he isn't busy with his freelance work, I'd probably ask him too. Actually, you two would have been spared if Isabella was here, but...
Why not just skip out on it? The world's not going to end if one guest doesn't show up.
Trust me, I'd love to. But I promised Mom I'll be there.
Still can't say no, huh?
Like you're any better. Besides, the person who sent this is an old friend of Mom and Da. If it's important to them, why not? Oh, who would have thought, huh? The famous Evans heir used to be tutored by my parents. Apparently, we also met before.
Wait, who?
Evans. Hannah Evans. Well, she's already married. She goes by Hannah Wright now. Remember the couple who bought the mansion Isabella's selling?
The same people?
As far as I know. Unless I misread their address, or there's another Hannah Wright in this city that we don't know about.
She hasn't put it together that it's, Luke.
Let me see that.
Even though she was there for that. Without waiting, he walks closer and takes the invitation out of my hands. Gently, but with some urgency in his voice. I don't know what he finds in it, but his eyebrows draw together as his eyes scan through the little lines of text printed on the small piece of paper. His hold on the envelope tightens with each pass, and by the time he's finished reading, his mouth is formed into a thin line.
You never mentioned this.
We met just once. Or at least, that's what Mum told me. Honestly, I can't recall anything from it. Otherwise, I would have told you about it.
He hums something inaudible under his breath, all while thumbing the paper and staring at it as if doing so would offer him answers to every unspoken question in his head. The fact that he wears fingerless gloves is just... like, I can deal with everything else. I can deal with the wallet chain, I can deal with the parka, I can deal with flaring his collar out over the fur of the parka. But oh my god, those gloves. When he gleans nothing from it, he merely folds the envelope back to its
All right.
form.
I'll go with you.
What?
What?
I'll go with you. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Unless you've already made up your mind about asking Z-Man.
No, I told you already the guy's busy. Why would I bother him for this when I can go alone? But what about your own work and...
I can make time for this. 3 o'clock, yeah? I'll pick you up an hour or so before.
Wow, my head reels, less from what this implies and more from how easy this all was for him, how fast that turnaround was. He was already halfway down the stairs when any semblance of sense returns to me, and I can finally string 2 words of protest together. Yet all of it dies on my tongue at the small smile he shoots me. He disappears from view seconds later, his footsteps gradually fading as he descends the stairwell until all I can hear are my own shallow breaths and heartbeat, loud, pounding hard in my chest. It's only after I'm standing alone in my room minutes later that it sinks in. He took the invitation with him, but besides that, more than that, he also accepted mine. Calling this happiness is a complete understatement. For now, looming thoughts of the mansion and that woman lay silent at the back of my head. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness unlike the ones greeting me every morn. Wow. How long have we been streaming here? 2 hours. We can give it a little longer, but look, we've already done 2 hours on this chapter. It makes me wonder how long it's going to be. Alright, give me just a second. I will be right back. I am going to go get a beverage and take care of something real fast. 1 moment. Oh, shit. That's right. We have to hit escape first, or things get weird. Ah, here we go. A fresh, delicious beverage. Let's pop back to it again. And we're going to cancel that. We do not want to return to the main menu, but let's save here real quick. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. And as expected, the second I step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken by the voices of two squabbling adults echoing from a floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted. Shame.
What the hell were you thinking?
I wasn't. Ow! Could you let go?
Not a few seconds later, they both ascend the stairs, with Ashton pulling Isabella by her wrist. She struggles, as she should, but his hold on her remains firm. Freeing herself means having to draw blood as she attempts to pry his hand off with her other one, or using unnecessary force to push herself away, neither of which is better than the other. One could potentially end in an accident, while the other means having to hurt physically. She has the good sense to realize that, at least. However, it doesn't take the desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. And so they go on, no wiser to my presence.
Do you have any idea how much trouble you could...
That's why I'm asking you for help.
Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabella.
Rose died, Ash.
I know. Every single person in Luxburg knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean...
People are missing. Some of those are my friends. And BRC's just covering it all up.
You can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it, right off the bat. This isn't a children's game, Isabella. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason. We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us.
Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will...
It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. It was funny the first time, not so much now.
You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't.
All right, you two are awfully loud. What's going on here?
Both of their heads snap up, almost in unison. A displeased frown is on each of their faces, but this is a necessary interruption. What can they do? People still in their units have already taken an interest in the commotion, with some taking a peek behind their curtains, while others are bold enough to creak open their doors, if only slightly. If they don't keep it down, pretty soon our landlady will show up. Getting a reprimand from her is the last thing I want to happen. First thing on a Friday morning? Even if this is hardly my fault.
Well, if you want to continue this, you two better do it elsewhere. You're disturbing other people.
Don't worry, we're done here.
No, we aren't. Becca, I looked it up. I called them. I visited some of them, and...
Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabella, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing.
Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way. Becca, it's not just Rose. There are others.
That last bit strikes a chord, prods strongly at a memory. At that vicious smile already etched deeply inside my mind. The image appears clear enough that at the mere mention of it, I stumble on my own question.
What do you mean?
The letter, Rebecca! It's not...
It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that dumb letter, none of us would be standing here. We've all read it, haven't we? But Rebecca's alive, Zach's alive, I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse. There's a murderer on the loose, and your coworkers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabella. It's too early for this shit.
Don't you think that's too much for a coincidence?
Not so much. Most serial killers follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time. And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is, civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger.
I wasn't chasing after...
Will the both of you slow down and stop arguing for a minute?
You know we're going to be forced to take sides, right? And, like, I want to come out and talk about my own supernatural experiences, but I also kind of want Rebecca and Ashton to get together, so, like, I want to stay on his side. Hopefully there's not a choice like that.
What's this about your coworkers, Belle?
Becca, please don't tell me now you believe this shit.
Sure, in a heartbeat, I'll agree with Ashton. That's how it's always been, besides having a very good point. Really, they're the very same ones he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is far from what I've been seeing, sensing these past few days. It doesn't matter that what Isabella or I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me, and that letter she picked up is at the heart of this. Crap. No. Maybe we'll get some chances with Ashton to improve our relationship, because I have got to say this. Yeah, I might have seen it. Ashton in particular won't be too happy to see it. Yes, he took a small hit there. Imagining the look on his face doesn't take too much effort. His entire posture shifts the moment my reluctance show, shoulders tensing, brows furrowing, eyes gaining a sharp edge. He's already bracing himself for the disappointment. And it will be a disappointment. Not in a million years did I ever believe I'd be saying this either.
I might have seen her. The woman Belle's been telling us about. The one she said she saw in the attic.
Both of them stare at me like I've grown an extra head, and for a few moments Ashton looks as if he's about to have a fit. A pause treads at its heels after, a silence thick enough that one could almost hear a pin drop.
You're kidding, right?
Do I look like I'm joking?
Really, Becca? Not funny.
Ash, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this? It's been this way since the film fest. The past few days have been really odd since we read that letter. Last night, you mentioned Zach hasn't been acting like himself. Maybe you should ask him, too.
Or maybe you're all just feeling under the weather.
I'm not sick. Don't you think I'd know that by now?
Becca, you're starting to sound like Scaredy Cat. Give me a break.
Why don't you?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you two.
Isabella's voice cut sharply through the conversation, abruptly putting an end to the brewing argument.
It's all my fault. This is all my fault. I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. I'm sorry for dragging you all into this.
She breathes in, deep, steadying, and in that moment something falls behind her eyes as she looks away.
I'll fix this. I promise.
Alright, you guys. I think this is not the greatest place to end it, but it's a good dramatic point to end it. I've got a phone call coming in from work, and I need to take it. So, I will be back with more stream later. But for now, I've got to go. See ya.